So I don't know what happened. I got cut off. But it's a heaviness that I feel. And see, that's what happened here. I started talking about what I feel, the heaviness, the darkness. I can feel it when it's around me. And what happened? You think this is crazy? My video got cut off. All right, so I had to pick up and start a new one. All right, and because that's what happens. That's what happens. There's spiritual warfare around us all the time. And when you're trying to get it right and do what Christ wants you to do, brother, sister, you're gonna get it. It's coming for you. All right. So protect yourself. Don't just use the scripture. Don't just use the armor. Use scripture with it. All right. And that's why it just cut me off. And I've not used any scripture yet. All right. Not planning to right this second. I'm just telling you where I am. All right. So it's a ministry on homelessness. It's a ministry to help the homeless and it's a ministry that centers around, we got to take care of basic needs, but communion. Because I believe when we commune, literally, the bread and the wine or the juice with Christ, it builds community within us and within those who we partake of that with. That was what Jesus did. He shared bread and wine with his closest people. And then he charged them to go out and do the same. All right. Matthew 25 tells us two things. In the first part, it tells us that those who did this to the least of these my brothers or my sisters, if we want to say it in our terms now, did it also to me. Right? So when we feed people, when we clothe people, when we nurture people, when we love people, we're doing it to Christ. But then later he says what? To those who didn't do this to the least of these my brothers and or sisters, you also didn't do it for me. So when we neglect those people, we neglect Christ. When we don't feed them, when we don't clothe them, when we don't nourish them, when we don't love them. All right, and we've taken it oftentimes into prison ministries. Awesome, needs to be there. But what about our streets? What about our streets? What about the people who are out here who have nothing? All right, okay, so maybe they've chosen that. So man, that's their life. But maybe they haven't. I remember being on a human trafficking thing one night with a good friend of mine, David Osk, who had just started with us, and it was probably the second or third time. We're standing there talking, me and him. Great guy. And he says, you know what I just thought? I said, well, he said, we're all one paycheck away from this. And we are. But a lot of times we neglect it because we don't want to think about it. Or maybe we're scared it could be us. See, when I was having all those problems sleeping, Melinda didn't know this. I was taking Ambien every night to sleep because I couldn't sleep without it. And it got to be where what I was taking wasn't enough. So I went to a new dose. And when I went to the new dose, eventually I ran out. So I just thought, well, I'll just call and get some more. I had no clue it was a narcotic. No clue whatsoever. Having worked the streets for 10.5 years, and sometimes I'm so naive. And so I called my doctor. He said, there's nothing I can do for you. He ended up giving me something that was not narcotic that worked, thankfully. But it really crossed my mind. If he won't get it, I'm going to have to go buy it off the street. All right, now what I didn't like about it was I was cloudy all day long. I was never myself, all right? But I slept, didn't sleep great. I woke up feeling as tired as I was when I went to bed, but at least I slept instead of being awake all night, which is awful. If you've ever experienced that, I went weeks without sleep because of health issues and some other things. But so I started realizing, okay, if that happens and I get caught, Melinda's going to throw me out. And I really literally thought I'm going to be homeless. I'm going to have nowhere to go. And I thought, do I need to check myself into drug rehab? But my doctor, thankful to God that he did, came through for me and got it. And I was able to get off all that stuff. And now I don't take anything, not for sleep. I take a medication every night for my legs because I have restless legs. That does make me drowsy, but it's not technically a sleep aid. But I sleep fine. I do have a CPAP now, but I had it when I lost lost my mind when I went through all that mess, right? So all this to say that, you know, Christ can fix everything. And we know that. But as I've gotten deeper and deeper and deeper and gone through that valley, I realized, and then I read a great book. Bill Payne, I'm giving you a plug here. I ran into something that I saw that didn't scare me, but I was like, what causes this? So I asked my good friend Joe Stallings, I should say, not Joseph, who is a PhD in theology, writes some good books, and is a minister with the Global Methodist Church. We've been friends since college. I asked him if he'd ever heard of this type of demon, and he said yes, and he told me what it was. And then he referred me to this guy right here. I know it's backwards, but Dr. William Payne. All right, and he writes a great book called Adventures in Spiritual Warfare. So Dr. Payne there, I just gave you a shameless plug on YouTube. All right, and in this, I've read this book and I've started learning different things. And you can see I've made lots of notes in this book about just how many demons there are. Like some of the things we talk about, like I remember reading some, what was his name? Oh, I can't think of his name. He wrote Wild as Heart. Anyway, talking about breaking generational curses. Changing the family tree is what he calls it. But as I read in Payne's book, I started realizing those generational curses can sometimes be demons that are passed down generation to generation. One of the ones I had to really work hard on to break, and finally Jesus is who broke it, is the demon of belittling. Like my dad, he grew up being belittled by his dad. So he didn't mean to, but he would often belittle us to make us feel not as accomplished as we could have. And I saw myself doing it, and I think Christ has finally broken me of that. I do see evidence of it in my children, because I didn't break it soon enough, and hopefully, you know, I can help them break it too. But it's a generational thing. It's a generational demon that's passed down, curse, whatever you want to call it. But Jesus Christ can break that. Is it easy? Sometimes Jesus just takes it away from you. Sometimes Jesus makes you do things in order to break it. All right, I see it in other places. I see it in all kinds of family members, and when I'm really in touch with God, I see a lot of things that I sometimes I don't talk about them because it upsets people. Right, so I just stay away from them. But I can always feel it when it's near because there's a heaviness, a darkness that comes in with it. All right, so now all of this to get back to why I'm where I am. I sent a few messages out last night because now I've realized what my pastor wanted was that ministry to be here, to start here in Gallatin, Tennessee, not Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. So I'm following what God's telling me to do. That's where I am. I'm sitting right out here now by the railroad tracks off of what we call Highway 31 or Gallatin Pike in Gallatin. And often, and I'll probably spread into Hendersonville a little bit just down the road. We don't have a huge homeless population here that I know of. And I don't see any here right now, but I sent out some feelers last night, and one person answered me and knew the answer. And the others, great. They're going to try to get the answers for me. But one particular person was Kim Baker, the head of the chamber here in Gallatin, spit it out like that. And not that the other ones don't care. I don't mean that, because they're good friends of mine. They're good people. But Kim knew right where it was, and that's where I am today. I haven't seen any yet. And her and I will talk further, as I will with the other great people that are going to help me. So I'm not belittling them. I'm just saying that Kim came through quickly, and they will as well. I was just kind of amazed that she knew it that quickly. That this is where she knew that some of the homeless people hung out. Some people want to call them unhoused. That's fine if you want to do that. I call them homeless. They're not unhoused. They're homeless. They have nowhere to go. All right. Unhoused is a nice way to make us, in my opinion, feel better about that they don't have a place. Let's be upfront and blunt. The last thing on this little video I'll say is that a lot of people want the government to do this stuff. It's not the government's job, people. It's the Christians. It's the church's job. We as Christians are called to do this by Jesus Christ. All right? The government's not. We are. It's our job as Christians to do this. Now, we could go down here and solicit the government all we want about, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. Quit shirking your duty, people. That ain't what Jesus told you to do. He didn't say, go have the government take care of it. He said what? You feed them, you help them, you take care of them. And let's help them get out of it. Let's help them find Jesus and get out of it. It's your job, church. It ain't nobody else's. It ain't the government's job. If you're in there praising Jesus on Sunday and not trying to do anything about these people out here, the homeless, the trafficked, the destitute, people who choose prostitution on their own, drug addicts, all these different people, all these addictions from a broken world, these sins from a broken world, you ain't doing your job. I'm sorry. I'm going to be the one that's going to say it. That's why God put this on me, because he knows I'm not one that holds back. All right? Yeah, I tick people off. So be it. So be it. All right? I'm doing his work, and that's what I'm going to do. If it makes you mad, good. Get off your butts and get out here and let's do something about it. All right, so that goes to here. It's where I'm going to cut off and start another video. It's why I'm where I am. All right, we'll get there.